I want to welcome everyone to Nonprofits. What do I need for a grant proposal with Sam Solomon? He is a SCORE Boston mentor, and he is one of our nonprofit gurus in our chapter. We have a handful of them, but we're going to talk about as I mentioned, what you need for a grant proposal specifically. And before we do that, I want to talk to you about SCORE in case you're not familiar with what we do. Our goal is to share information with the small business community. We do that in a couple different ways. One is through the information on our website, score.org. Lots of great templates and videos you can watch, articles you can read. Lots of great information. Strongly encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't looked before. The other is our webinars and workshops. We advertise those through our newsletter, social media, our website. So take a look for those if there's a certain subject you're looking for. And the other is through our mentor and that mentoring. And our mentoring is probably the most important thing that we do. Our mentors are volunteers. They come to us with all different experiences and skill sets to share with the small business community. Because they're volunteers, that makes our mentoring free. If we can't find someone to work with you in our chapter, we have resources to reach out to the district as well as national to find someone that can work with you. A beginning session is probably going to be about 40 minutes. They want to learn about what your goals are, what your challenges are, and help you put together a plan to reach those goals and challenges. We're working with folks that are in all stages of the game, whether they're trying to decide if small business is right for them, if they're in the planning phase, or perhaps you're already in business, but you're trying to scale or some challenges that you're facing. We can work with anyone along the way. Mentoring generally happens with attaching you to a primary mentor. And after that first session, you'll either continue that relationship with them or they'll sometimes invite others to assist. But they'll be your guide to helping you find all the information that you need to be successful. Getting a mentor is very easy. You can go to the score.org website and there's a blue box where you can put in your zip code and that will connect you to the chapter that's nearest you. And then it'll ask you a couple quick questions and then we'll use that information to match you to the right mentor to get things started. So if you don't have a mentor, consider reaching out for one. We do have a pretty decent crowd expected today. So we are going to use the Q&A button on the Zoom bar. If you could submit your questions to there, anything you want asked to the presenter, we will do our best to get through everyone's questions. We may not get through all the questions, but we will try. And we will try and concentrate on those questions that are on topic for what we're doing today. I am going to put into chat shortly. There is another chapter in our districts that's going to be talking about grants for for-profit businesses. So that's a little bit different than what we're doing today. So I will put that registration in chat if we should have any for-profit businesses with us today. We are recording and that recording will be found on the score.org/Boston website. As per the graphic, you could see under local workshops on the blue bar, you can find previously recorded webinars and it should be there within the next 24 to 48 hours. So I'm going to pull this down and I am going to turn it over to Sam Solomon. It's all yours, Sam.
Thank you, Teresa. Just by way of background, I spent about 30 years as a consultant to nonprofits and did a lot of grant writing, taught grant writing. So I come to this with a great deal of experience. In addition to my presentation, as Teresa said, be happy to have your questions. And also, even after the session, if you want to be in touch, I would certainly invite you to do so. As I start, I'd like to put grants in some context, because I do a lot of nonprofit. I have a lot of nonprofit clients. I sometimes find um, businesses or nonprofit organizations coming with the idea that the best way for them to raise money is by applying for grants. It's not quite as easy as that sounds. For one thing, it's very difficult for businesses or for-profit organizations to obtain grants. There are some organizations that do provide grants for businesses, but they are, like from my experience, they're few and far between. Most grants for businesses tend to come from government entities, cities, states, sometimes the federal government, and those are quite often focused on economic development, community development, basically strengthening infrastructure in communities. Whereas for nonprofits, there's a huge reservoir of potential money for programs that nonprofits have, and that's what I'm going to principally talk about today. A grant is, as most of you probably realize, is provided by some entity like a government agency, trust fund, trusts, corporations, and particularly foundations to financially support beneficial projects. It's particularly true of foundations. There are a huge number of foundations in the United States, and I will give you a reference to a major resource for finding foundations by the end of the presentation. But the principle that there are billions of dollars of money that are distributed through foundations in the United States. Foundations tend to be set up in a variety of ways. Sometimes companies set them up, wealthy people, people selling major businesses and having a great deal of money in the aftermath will set up foundations, both because of a sense of social mission, but also to save taxes. Money you give to a foundation is tax deductible. Loans are quite often a vehicle for business entities. Sometimes nonprofits are able to obtain loans, but for many nonprofits that becomes somewhat risky, having to pay back. Generally, a grant is money that's yours to keep and use for a specific purpose. Most contracts, not all, but most contracts come from government agencies to carry out certain types of mandates that have been authorized by Congress. So the way you get to access money from those sources is by writing a grant proposal or grant application. And that's what I'm going to review for you. Essentially, a grant proposal is supposed to give a funder information about the applicant organization. And organization is important because it's exceedingly rare that individuals qualify for grants. Explains why the entity or the applicant needs the money and how it's going to use the money. Increasingly, many grant makers, foundation grant makers, have applications online that you fill out. It's much easier for them to keep track of them and to circulate them to trustees that way, as opposed to a written or a paper proposal. In cases where there is not an online application, I generally recommend a cover letter with a proposal to outline the major points of your proposal, but very much summarized. It's rare for an electronic or digital proposal to require a cover letter. A good proposal starts off with an executive summary, one that defines your organization's mission and the nature of its grant request, the needs and the impact that you foresee for your project, and an overview of what the funder is to expect from the project and how the grant will support the project. That's maybe a half a page, but it gives an introduction to your proposal right away and informs the reader, which are generally staff of foundations or corporate giving programs, exactly what your proposal is about. Foundations and corporate programs receive an enormous number of grant proposals. So you want to focus on making your proposal stand out. The first major section is a statement of need that identifies an issue that you are focusing on as an organization, not a general observation, but what's a specific problem in your community, for example, that you're attempting to address through the funding that you are hoping to get from the funder. And that means having supporting evidence and data. You can't just simply say there are a huge number of homeless people in our community, and we want to serve their needs. You need numbers, and most funders want numbers. They want to understand how their money is going to be used, and have a sense of what size is the population that you're going to serve. And you need to make a case for why your organization has the best solution to address the problem. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have a unique solution, but one that you can defend and show results from. And also, if you're dealing with a problem that is urgent, express that sense of urgency in your document. Let them know why you need an early solution. The statement of need is followed, or should be followed, by the goals and objectives of your program. Spell them out. What are the goals that you hope to achieve? And at the end of the grant period, what are the outcomes that the funder should expect? Explain the strategies that you're going to use. offer a time frame and methods of how you will address the issue. It shouldn't be open-ended. Most funders will want to know how long the grant period is for. And most funders will only give additional funding beyond the grant, the first grant, if they see progress. And my experience is that most foundations will only support an applicant for 2 or 3 years. After that, they will move on to other applicants that they face large needs. And so it's important not to get too comfortable with money that you're getting from a funder, especially if it's a multi-year flow of grant funds. And the next section that I recommend is evaluation. You want to explain how you're going to measure your achievement. Explain in reasonably detailed terms how you're going to measure the outcomes rather of your program at the end of the grant period. And include the data that, if you've served a certain number of people and you've seen specific types of progress, convert that data to a narrative that helps the funder understand what your experience has been in the past, and with this program, and what you hope to be able to deliver at the end of your grant. If the project is going to run indefinitely, and many do, explain how you will sustain the project without the funder's support. But also try to make a case that you hope the funder, if this is successful, is going to continue to support what you're doing. In your proposal, it's important rather, I should say, to include what are any other sources of funding or in-kind support that you're getting. Most funders don't want to be the only entity with money in the game. They want to know that other funders see your project as important and worth supporting. And that also helps not only with the grant application that you're submitting, but it also gives a sense that others have confidence in what you're attempting to do. An application should contain important organizational information, a copy of your mission statement, a discussion of your history and track record. What else have you been doing? When were you founded? How well have you fulfilled the goals that your strategic plan has produced? They want a list of your board of directors. Very important. They want to know who in the community is supportive of your organization, and quite frankly, a few high visibility people, even one, is important because it sends a message. I've seen too many cases where an organization or the executive director appoints people who are friends or friends of friends. And unless those people are bringing value to the board, they're not going to be very helpful or convincing to a potential funder. Provide demographic data, very important. What community do you serve? Who makes up the population? So that you get a picture. If your program operates in a low-income community, it's very important information for a funder to have, because it probably will increase your chances of success. A great deal of money that goes to nonprofits is to support social services, education, community development, economic development. Those things are viewed by many funders as critical to building community. Some additional documents that you'll need. You need a copy of your tax exempt letter from the IRS. If you have filed the IRS Form 990, which is the nonprofit tax return, essentially. Not that you will necessarily be paying taxes, but they want an accounting of your revenues and how they were spent. If you've been audited, a copy of your audited statement, and a copy of your budget, as detailed as possible, so they understand how you're spending your money. And for the specific project, if you're a multi-program agency, spell out the costs for this particular project. Of course, indicate how much money you wish to receive from the funder and how the money will be used, overhead, staff costs, that sort of thing. Those are the fundamentals. I will say this, that I've dealt with a significant number of people who come to SCORE looking for help in supporting their nonprofits. It's very important, in my experience, to have a track record. If you're a startup or organization that's only been in business for 2 or 3 years, it's going to be harder to make a case for funding. So keep that in mind. There are other ways to raise money as a nonprofit. And frankly, in the early stages of an organization's existence, those other sources are frankly should be a priority. By that I'm referring to individual donors. The sooner you can build a support base in the community in which you're located, the better. The more people you have on your board who have experience with fundraising, or at least have the willingness to ask for money, which is unfortunately far too rare among board members, the greater the chances that you may attract private gifts, but it'll also help you expand a network of supporters. Every person you approach has the potential to name a small number of people who you ought to talk to, who might have an interest in the work that you're doing. I'd like to reference, and we'll make this available to you. I find 2 major sources of philanthropic information to be particularly helpful. Philanthropy Massachusetts. It's the name of an organization. You can easily find it on the internet under the philanthropyma.org. It's the largest philanthropic giving library in the Northeast. They have a huge number of resources, and they also have a staff. If you're in the Boston area, making an appointment to go by and talk to them about your programs and your grant needs can be a very productive visit. And then secondly, there's a publication called the Foundation Directory online. It's a national compendium of funders and grant making and their grant making priorities. It's a very expensive source to purchase or purchase a subscription for, but many libraries keep that in their collection. I know, again, if you're in the Boston area, libraries, probably Newton. I know Newton does. Cambridge, Brookline, the main public library, the Boston Public Library. I find it an enormously valuable resource. It's very user-friendly, and you can focus on the type of programming you do, your location, your city or state, and it will refine for you a list of potential foundation sources. Another thing I would say in bringing this part of the presentation to a close, you will find, and maybe you have already found, that grant writing is very time consuming. Particularly if you're a small organization, grant writing is something that is almost a distraction at the same time that it's critical to do. And I think that considering retaining on a part-time basis a grant writer is worth doing. This person could identify grant prospects and generate applications and support the programming in that fashion. If you're doing your own grant writing at Philanthropy Massachusetts, there is something called the Common Proposal Form. I believe that's what it is now. They may have changed the name, but it should be easy to find. And it gives you a framework for drafting a proposal, a skeleton. And what you have to do is just add the information. Much of what I outlined is being appropriated for a grant application is covered in this structure. So I would strongly recommend going to, again, the Philanthropy Massachusetts website and taking a look at the Common Proposal Form. This was developed many years ago because too many funders had different application forms, which meant that it was very time consuming to respond to different in different formats. And the Common Proposal Form was designed to standardize the kind of information that you were required to submit. And if you do that, if you create a template according to this common form, then you can generate a significantly larger number of proposals, at times you will have to, especially with online applications, you may have to make alterations, but it's basically a cut and paste job. So again, I recommend seeing the resources that Philanthropy Massachusetts has. And with that, I would be delighted to respond to questions.
Yes, please go ahead and put your questions in and we can, we'll get to as many as we can. Is there an online program without costs that has a way to practice doing a grant that would sort of evaluate you for technique or
Good question.
evaluate?
I would consult with Philanthropy Massachusetts, and I say that because they offer workshops in grant writing, and they would probably have a ready answer for that. So I think that's a good place to go. They can also refer you to a range of other online resources, and the friendliest tool that I use in my work is Google. And I strongly suggest
Yeah, I think we are having a little bit of problem with audio right now. See if he unfreezes and we can try and get that information to you now. If not, we will email it to you after. And I will save questions that have been submitted and we will get those answered for you. It looks like Sam is froze. So give it a few seconds. And if not, please continue to put your questions in. Oh, and I think we lost them. So go ahead and get your questions in and I will submit those to Sam and we will get them answered. We will put them in a follow-up email and have those sent to everyone. Oh, he's trying to rejoin. Let's see if that doesn't solve our issue. You'll have to unmute Sam if you can hear us. We don't have video on you, but maybe we can get sound. And I can answer one of the questions. Someone asked about registering for an event and they got an error message. A lot of times when you register for an event and you get an error message, it's because you've already registered for it. The person that asked that question and submitted anonymously, so I cannot look up for you to see if you did register already, but definitely check your spam to see if you don't have a confirmation previously for that event. Otherwise, you'll have to email me outside of this or go ahead and resubmit again and tell me who you are and I can find out if you are indeed already registered. But a lot of times that is what the problem is. So
okay. I think I've unmuted.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you.
This is definitely a technology collapse, and I apologize.
Yeah. Can you repeat the tool that you were talking about when you froze? I think you had mentioned, I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but
Do you remember a single word?
yeah, I think we were talking about what you can use to help make sure you're
Oh,
writing
yes, I
effective.
was praising Google. And
Oh, okay.
I said that I find Google to be an enormously helpful resource when I need information. And you can literally put in the question that you want answered, and the chances are very good that you'll get to links that will help you understand what you're looking for. Failing that, I'll have to do some research.
Okay. How important is having a website for your organization? I mean, many organizations are focusing on their delivery and want to avoid that overhead, but do you find that it's important to get grants and funding?
I think it's important because of a number of reasons. One is it testifies to the seriousness of your organization. If you've gone to the trouble to create a website that presents your organization in full, its programs, its leadership, perhaps stories of success that you've had, I think it sends a very strong message to people. I know that I look for websites when I want to understand what an organization is really doing, and frankly, to determine the legitimacy of the organization. I think it's important for that. I think it's important also because it's a good way to communicate who you are, particularly if you're a small organization. And I think it's a good idea to use your website address, like on your stationery or on correspondence, but make it clear that people can contact you through your website. I know that sometimes websites can be expensive to design, but there are people who do websites for very reasonable cost, and I think one or more of my colleagues at SCORE probably has more information on how to identify website designers that might be reasonably priced if that's an issue for you. But I absolutely believe that websites are very important, and I use them constantly in my work and in my personal life.
Okay. I think we've gotten through all the questions because there was a lot submitted when you were froze, that you're froze. So, yeah, so if you can let me know if I've missed your question right now.
Yes,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
noticed
go
in the
ahead.
questions that Don Whitmore indicated Foundation Directory is part of Candid. Candid is a merger of two grant info or there are two resources for grants, and they call themselves Candid for reasons I've never understood. But it's still the same Foundation Directory, but you might find it under Candid on the web, and I appreciate Don for pointing that out. And if that's all the questions, I am available if anybody wants further information or actually wants to schedule an appointment to talk about some other need that your organization has or that you foresee if you're in the startup stage. You just need to go to our website and you can find all of our mentors by exploring our website, and you can contact us directly. You don't have to go through any lengthy process. I just saw a question flash up about how do you register a nonprofit, and I think that's the question, and that's a really very important process. You do two things, particularly if you're going to do fundraising. The first one is you register to incorporate, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And if you go online, again to Google, look for incorporating a nonprofit in Massachusetts, and it'll take you to the Secretary of State's office. You'll find an application form, and you should complete it, submit it. It's not a difficult process, and you can typically get a response within a relatively short time. I heard from a client last week that they got a response 2 days after they submitted the application. I think that's unusual, but it shouldn't take very long. And then the next step in the registering process is to apply to the Internal Revenue Service to obtain tax exempt status or the 501c3 designation. And again, you go to Google, you can request, excuse me. There are two main forms. One is the form 1023. E is an elephant, D is in David. I'm sorry, Z. I'm sorry to confuse you. EZ, elephant, zebra. And that's for organizations that don't expect to have income for a period of time that's under $50,000. And if you expect to have more income, then you want to apply using form 1023. No suffix, just 1023. Those application forms are available online. And, if you're having difficulty, you can contact us by signing up for an appointment, and we can help you provide that information. Then once you have that, once you are certified, both as a nonprofit and as tax exempt, then you have there are several steps that you take to explain who you are. And one is to develop a business plan, but that's not the purpose of this webinar, but it's something we can talk to our clients about, and I do quite often.
And I have a couple questions. Yeah, and if you want to go more into that, I did put it in chat. We did do a starting a nonprofit webinar last week, and that
Well, that's
recording.
right.
Yeah, and that recording is in the same spot as this one will be and so that's up already. You can certainly start there. But then like Sam mentioned, we do have mentors at our chapter that can also work with you. I do have another, we can just, since we do have a little bit of time, there is another question on the NPO registration process. When does one obtain the tax ID number?
Well, the tax ID number you get from the Internal Revenue Service, when they approve your application, you're assigned a number and you get a letter certifying you as a tax exempt organization. And then when you're applying for grants, you enclose a copy of that letter. It's a one-pager, last I saw, just to certify that you're eligible to receive grants for nonprofits. I see, yeah, Teresa responded to this question about if you may have signed up incorrectly.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that's referring to, but I'm going to put my email in here for sure. Go ahead and email me offline and we'll help you out as best we can. I'm not sure what that one's referring to. Okay. All right, great. So you can you can schedule with Sam through me or one of our other nonprofit mentors. So you can go ahead and you can email me at the outreach@scoreboston.org. And they can, and I can set you up with one of our nonprofit mentors, and you can go through all the questions you have that are directly related to your nonprofit and get the questions that are answers that apply directly to you. And that's really the best way to handle that. So
I just noticed among the questions, one of the members of the group today made a very good suggestion. If you can't find the library directory for Candid, just call the organization, and they'll tell you where you can likely find the directory in the Boston area or wherever you happen to be located. And I think that's a good. I would definitely recommend accessing the foundation directory at Candid. I always found it to be an enormously helpful tool.
Leaving this answer. Okay. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap for today. Again, if you've thought of another question, if you want to schedule with one of our nonprofit mentors, please go ahead and email me, outreach@scoreboston.org. And I will do my best to get you set up with someone as soon as possible or get your question to the right person. We can try and get it answered, and it's possible if it's a lengthy question that we'll want to set you up with an appointment, just because we try and honor our volunteers' time that they've donated by using their appointment slots. So thank you everyone for attending today and your patience when we had that small technical snafu in the middle, but we got through it, and I think we were able to share a lot of really great information with you today. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sam. And hope to see all of you again soon.
Yeah, give us some business. Take care. I hope you have a nice day the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.